Okay, let's continue. The 10th lecture will be about the 7 angels. In this lecture we are going to solve the question, who have been the 7 angels and in what year did they begin to manifest? In the book of Revelation, chapter 8, verses 2 and 6, King James Version. Verse 2, And I saw the 7 angels which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And verse 6, And the 7 angels which had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. First angel, King Bekmun. In 1930, he converted to Christianity and later he had enrolled in the seminary in Seoul. In 1933, he inherited the foundation from Pastor Lee Yong-do upon his death. In 1943, he started a retreat in Sopchol-ri in Paju County, in the countryside north of Seoul. In September 1945, the month after the end of the war, he formally established the Israel Jesus Church by setting up a church in Sando-don, Seoul, and a small prayer center in Sopchol-ri, and this represents the sound of the first trumpet, Revelation 8:7. His book represents the first open seal, Revelation 6:1. Many parts of this book are contained in the divine principle. Second angel, Hyewon-yu. In 1953, he joined Trufaris group and he started taking notes of the principle. Then in 1954, Trufaris chose him to be the first president of the Unification Church in Korea. And in 1957, he published the Woli Pesul, Explanation of the Divine Principle. And in 1966, he published the Woli Kangrun, Exposition of the Divine Principle. And this represents the sound of the second trumpet, Revelation 8:8. The Divine Principle book represents the second open seal, Revelation 6:3. Third angel, Dr. Sang-Hoon Lee. In 1956, he joined the Unification Church. In 1962, he spoke to the family for the first time about victory over communism. In 1973, he published the first book under the name of the Unification Thought Institute under the direction of Trufaris. And this represents the sound of the third trumpet, Revelation 8:10 or Revelation 16:4. The Unification Thought book represents the third open seal, Revelation 6:5. Fourth angel, Colonel Bohi Park. In 1950, he joined the Unification Church. In 1962, he traveled to the United States with 2 missions, as a missionary and as a diplomat. In 1980, he founded CAUSA International Organization, and in 1985, he published his first edition of the CAUSA Lecture Manual book, and this represents the sound of the fourth trumpet, Revelation 8:12. The CAUSA Lecture Manual book represents the fourth open seal, Revelation 6:7. Fifth angel, Hashimoto. In 1977, he was witnessed by a German brother from the Unification Church. In 1979, he joined the church as an internal member. Then in 1984, he joined the Heteros group of the Unification Movement. In 1997, he found the key to understanding Trufaris' words. And in 1999, he discovered that the true grandson is the substantial fourth Adam. Therefore, he left the Heteros group in the same year. In 2003, God told him in a revelation that he must write the 95 theses like Martin Luther, and he wrote 100 theses. Then between 2006 to 2007, the Fourth Israel Research Group was established, but only as a research group. And in 2008, the Fourth Israel was established as a group with 12 tribes, 144 people. And this represents the sound of the fifth trumpet, Revelation 9:1. His interpretations and the 100 theses represent the fifth open seal, Revelation 6:9. Sixth angel, European brother. In the 70s, he joined the Unification Church. He did various activities, was a camp leader, participated in home church activities, formed his family, etc. Then in 2002, he joined Hashimoto's group. When he learned that Trufaris called for the international CAUSA movement to be revived, he, together with other European brothers, began to investigate and discovered that communism has been revived too, with a new mass and with a new strategy, through the 3 threads of Judeo-Christian foundation, less visible, yet at least as destructive. Those included are radical Islam, cultural Marxism, and esoteric or New Age philosophy. In 2012, they formed the Voice organization, and between 2013 to 2014 they began to give lectures on the new strategy of communism. And this represents the sound of the sixth trumpet, Revelation 9:13 or Revelation 16:12. Voice lectures represent the sixth open seal, Revelation 6:12. Seventh angel, God's prophet. In 2013 he was chosen by heaven. Then in 2014 he came to New Jerusalem. In 2017 he revealed the first message from heaven. In 2020 the second message, and the third will be revealed this year. And this represents the sound of the seventh trumpet, Revelation 11:15. God's prophet's messages represent the seventh open seal, Revelation 8:1. The 11th lecture will be about the two olive trees. In this lecture we are going to solve the question, who are they and what is the mission they must carry out? To Father, open quote, in the book of Revelation chapter 11 prophesied two olive trees. What does this mean? It means that someone like Joshua and Caleb will appear before the start of the worldwide course to restore Canaan. Close quote. You can find this in the speech, Be Bold and Strong, June 23, 1957. We already understand that from the previous workshop, the two current olive trees are God's prophet and former President Donald J. Trump. Also, in the previous workshop, these four biblical passages from chapter 17 of the book of Revelation were read. Revelation 17, in the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verses 11 to 13, and then the verse 17, King James Version. It says, And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the eighth, and is of the seven, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. And verse 17, For God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. We already know from the previous workshop that the beast is represented by the Joe Biden administration. However, it was mentioned that he and his team would probably lose the election. Apparently they did not lose it, but on the other hand, it's still unknown if they committed fraud. But if we read the part that says, open quote, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast, close quote, and then it says, open quote, and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled, close quote, we can conclude that an hour is a year on D-Day, and that's why Joe Biden and his administration are currently in the White House. In the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verses 4, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 14, King James Version, it reads, These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascended out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them. And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And after 3 days and a half, the Spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood up on their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. And the same hour was there a great earthquake, and the 10th part of the city fell, and in the earthquake were slain of men 7,000, and the remnant were afraid, and gave glory to the God of heaven. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. If in the previous biblical passages of chapter 17 it mentions an hour that is equivalent to 1 year, in the passages of chapter 11 it mentions 3 days and a half that are equivalent to 3 seasons and a half, which is almost a year as well. Then in verse 13 it says, open quote, and the same hour was there a great earthquake, close quote. And then at 14 it says, open quote, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, close quote. And this means that the hour that equals 1 year is repeated three times. In 2017, after Donald Trump has won the elections and took office, in that same year, internal discord between the different groups of the unification movement increased. And also in that same year, gas profit began to manifest. The second was in 2021, which is when they symbolically died, and it is after Donald Trump loses the elections and gas profit manifests for the second time. The third time will be in 2022, when gas profit will manifest again. Manage to reunify the true family, so that this family will manage to put Donald Trump as president of the UPF, Universal Peace Foundation. The 12th lecture will be about the Holy Father. In this lecture, we are going to solve questions based on Catholic prophecies. And the questions are, what mission did God give St. Augustine of Hippo that he would fulfill from the spiritual world, and what would be our mission as unificationists in the physical world? Who is the Holy Father and what is his mission, and in what country was the Holy Father born? What mission did God give St. Augustine of Hippo that he would fulfill from the spiritual world, and what would be our mission as unificationists in the physical world? Lady Hyun-Shil Khan, open quote, our true parents desire that you return to earth, to Protestants as well as Catholics, to bear witness to the true parents, and what do you think about this? Close quote. St. Augustine, open quote, if Catholicism and Protestantism are God-centered churches that respond to the divine call, there must be many clergy members and devotees who have been waiting all their lives for the one who is to come. It is very difficult, however, for me to move their hearts towards the true parents through the work of early return. Nonetheless, if it is what the true parents desire, I will try to make it possible through all the channels available. First of all, for this, the Protestant and Catholic groups must unite and form a group in the spiritual world that naturally bears witness to the true parents. The members of this group can return to the people on earth with whom the members have a common base. Thank you very much for giving me new material and inspiration with which to carry out my activities here in the spiritual world. April 3rd, 2000. And you can find this in St. Augustine's Confessions from the Spiritual World, Part 4, channeled by Yeon Sun Kim, the reporter, August 2000. Now, who is the Holy Father and what is his mission? Sister Lucia, open quote, second part. The war is going to end, but if people do not cease offending God, a worse one will break out during the pontificate of Pope Pius XI. When you see a night illuminated by an unknown light, know that this is the great sign given you by God that he is about to punish the world for its crimes by means of war, famine, and persecutions of the Church and of the Holy Father. To prevent this, I shall come to ask for the consecration of Russia to my Immaculate Heart and the communion of reparation on the first Saturdays. Omission. 4-part. Our Lady showed us a vision of an individual that I described as the Holy Father in front of a cheering crowd. But there was a difference with a true Holy Father, the look of the devil. He had the eyes of evil. We immediately looked up to Our Lady, who told us, you have just seen the apostasy in the Church. This letter can be opened by the Holy Father, but it must be published after Pius XII and before 1960. In the reign of John Paul II, the cornerstone of Peter's tomb must be removed and brought to Fatima. Because the dogma of the faith has not been preserved in Rome, its authority will be removed and handed over to Fatima. Close quote. You can find this in the Secret of Fatima was given to 3 young Portuguese shepherds, Lucia Santos and her cousins Jacinta and Francisco Marto, by a Marian apparition from May 13 to October 1917, 6 times. Reading by Lucia from 1941 to 1944, revealed in 1941 the first and second part, 2000 the third part, and 2009 the fourth part. This secret was originally designed to prepare the Catholic Church and to welcome True Father. For example, Lucia finished writing it in 1944, a year before True Father turned 25 and manifested in the Christian churches of Korea, and that it was to be published before 1960, the year True Parents received the blessing. But as Christendom failed to accept True Father, Providence was prolonged and the central figure was substituted. So now everything is focused on the true grandson. And that is why it is no coincidence that the fourth secret was published in 2009, a year before the true grandson turned 25. And therefore, the interpretation of this secret must be published before 2025 or 2026, which is the year in which the true grandson will receive the blessing with his beloved bride. Pope Pius XI Pope Pius XI is Pope John Paul II, the real one. Pope Pius XII is represented now by Pope Benedict XVI or Pope Francis, both. Pope John Paul II now is represented by the Holy Father, means the God's Prophet, or Pope John Paul III. Mother Mary is represented by the Church, or the UPF, the Universal Peace Foundation. If we realize the Second World War broke out the same year when Pope Pius XI passed away. This means that when John Paul II died in 2005, the Third World War was going to break out, but True Father, as an excellent Messiah, inaugurated the UPF in the same year and prevented it from breaking out. In what country was the Holy Father born? John Rick Miller, open quote, "The Father tells us that there are 2 nations that have been chosen by him for these times on this continent. One is called the Ark of Love, the other is called the Island of Light." The Island of Light, for you to better understand, it's an island of light in the sea of darkness, the world. This country is so blessed by God that it's being referred to us as a sacred land. Meaning, when God created the world, he made some nations that he blessed with everything. Close quote. He said that in Bogota, Colombia in 2010. For St. Malachi's prophecy about Peter the Roman to be fulfilled, the Holy Father must have been born in a Catholic family and a Catholic country. And these 2 countries, the Ark of Love and the Island of Light, are Catholic countries. Okay, we can stop here and then continue in the next video.